Albanese government is under fire this morning after it was revealed more than 20,000 permanent visas have been granted to family members of asylum seekers who arrived illegally in Australia by boat.
Welcome to a new year of Media Watch with a new set and, yes, a new talking head. Hello, I'm Linton Besser. And first tonight, we turn to a new crisis on Australia's borders.
All aboard! Family and partners of illegal boat people given visas to stay permanently.
Exclusive.
Yes, the Daily Telegraph with a serious national security scoop on page 1. Asylum seekers once again exploiting gaps in our border protection regime.
More than 21,000 partners and family members of asylum seekers who arrived in the country illegally by boat prior to 2013 have been granted permanent Australian visas, new figures show.
21,000 permanent visas. The Telly's editor was appalled.
These partners and family members have been rewarded for the border-skipping behaviour of their first arriving relatives. People smugglers will be impressed. Australians won't be.
Them's fighting words. This exclusive was big news in News Corp tabloids across the country and made waves on morning TV.
Over 21,500 permanent visas were granted to family members of asylum seekers.
More than 21,000 permanent visas.
Peter Fegan on Brisbane's 4BC drummed up the outrage.
21,000 relatives of asylum seekers have just been welcomed into this country with little to no vetting process. I'm not saying they are all criminals, but there would be some. There'd be a percentage of those that are here for ill will, that were here to break our laws, that would be here to cause other people harm.
Liberal Senator James Paterson used the story to claim the Albanese government was failing at the border.
They allowed, firstly, 19,000 people who came here by boat illegally to stay in violation of everyone's promise. But now we've learned that in addition to those 19,000, they've allowed those people to bring in their family members, up to 21,500 of them. And that sends a terrible message to others thinking that they might be able to pull this off.
Over on Sky, Peter Credlin, formerly Chief of Staff to Tony Abbott, couldn't resist the story either. But by then, the number had changed.
News today that some 2,000 partners and family members of illegal asylum seekers have been granted visas.
2,000? Now that's a very different figure. So who's made a boo-boo? Best as we can tell, the numbers at the heart of News Corp's report came from the records of this parliamentary hearing last November.
How many partner and family visas have been granted to resolution of status visa holders?
And here's the somewhat belated answer. Peter Credlin was right. 2,158. Oof, the tabloids were off by a factor of 10. So just how did they get it so wrong? The papers declined to tell us. But here's a theory. See that little 1 at the end of the number? It's a footnote, of course, but when you copy and paste it, hey presto, a national security crisis. Whoops. In any case, the papers behaved like good corporate citizens and swiftly corrected the record. The next day, there was also a correction in the printed papers. You might even spot it, all the way at the bottom of the Telegraph's letters page in tiny, tiny font.
A story published on Tuesday incorrectly reported the federal government granted 21,581 permanent visas. The correct figure was 2,158.
As for the others, Nine's radio presenters in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne all broadcast on-air corrections, but only after we asked why they hadn't. Sky also ran a correction. Meanwhile, neither the Today Show nor Sunrise have yet told their viewers, as far as we can tell, that the number was incorrect. Of course, there's nothing wrong with News Corp and the federal opposition gunning hard on border security. After all, it's worked for them in the past. But when you're also running a splashy advertising campaign promising your readers
an unwavering commitment to accuracy
and
stories with every fact checked,
it's all a little bit awkward, isn't it? Now to Darwin, where NT viewers of Nine's news bulletin last Monday tuned in and saw this.
Brisbane artists have united at Victoria Park this morning as part of a campaign against plans to build a multi-billion-dollar stadium for the 2032 Games.
The following night, Nine served Darwin with another on-point bulletin.
Breaking news now out of the Gold Coast, where 2 people have been hit by a car.
And of course, the Northern Territory's weather report.
Here in the southeast, another beautiful day to look forward to.
For the past 2 weeks, Territorians have been treated to slick Channel 9 evening news bulletins about Queensland. Even the crocs were from the wrong state.
Well, beachgoers at a popular camping and fishing spot near Bundaberg have had a scaly surprise, spotting a crocodile lurking on its shores.
In fact, Darwin's last genuine Channel 9 bulletin, presented by Paul Murphy, was back on January 21.
And that is 9 News for this Thursday. Stay with us. Live and free coverage of the Australian Open tennis is up next. For now, though, I'm Paul Murphy from the team. Good night.
The next morning, Paul and the staff of Nine's Darwin Bureau were told their TV bulletin, which has been running for the better part of 40 years, had been axed, effective immediately. The following night, NT viewers were greeted with this.
The southeast in the grips of an extreme heat wave, sparking power outages and a warning from health authorities.
It's yet another case of media industry dieback. The rot now setting into the television advertising market. Nine has slashed its Gold Coast operations too. In all, the company says 11 full-time positions have been impacted, but that only 3 people have lost their jobs. In Darwin, Nine is keeping just 1 journalist and camera operator. Its pledge to run their stories in the Queensland Bulletin is worth very little, according to TV commentator Rob McKnight.
It's a nice idea to say that the NT is still being covered with 1 crew, but the reality is that then has to fit into a Queensland-specific bulletin. So unless it's a story of major national importance, it's really not going to make the cut.
So far, he's right on the money. Since the Darwin Bureau closed, there have been plenty of big top-end stories, like France's second largest warship docking in Darwin, Virgin canning direct flights between Darwin and Adelaide, and shocking news about an NT prisons crisis.
Police watch houses have become so overcrowded that prisoners are sleeping on mattresses on the floor in filthy cells for weeks at a time, often in stifling hot conditions.
None of those stories got a run on Nine, and people are not happy, telling the ABC.
That's gobsmacking to me.
It's a lack of respect, really.
I guess they see Darwin as being, for lack of a better term, the arse end of Australia, right?
Nine has previously suspended its Darwin Bulletin, but never before axed its bureau. We think it's a terrible shame, not least because its staff has previously filed vital on-the-ground reporting, like this package that we highlighted on Media Watch last year.
Today sitting empty in Coconut Grove, the site of a tragedy that's left family and friends devastated.
She was a beautiful young woman. She was very friendly, that had lots of friends, and she was very kind, and she's a mother of 3.
Blake Carter among those grieving. The body of his friend, a 36-year-old woman, discovered at the block of flats on Saturday.
A human being you can't replace. Simple as that.
Sadly, there's now even less prospect that voices like these will be heard. To its credit, Nine had long been the last commercial TV station still standing in Darwin. 7 and 10 pulled up stumps many years ago. Now, the only local bulletin comes courtesy of the ABC, which the NT Chief Minister, Leah Finocchiaro, told us was disappointing.
Corporate Australia has a responsibility to continue providing services to regional communities, not cut them off for the sake of budget savings and higher profits.
We asked Nine what prompted the killing of its Darwin Bulletin and how it now intends to service Territorians. A spokesperson told us,
"These difficult yet necessary decisions ensure Nine is able to withstand external challenges while maintaining a commitment to both the Northern Territory and Gold Coast regions."
For years, regional Australia has seen the steady encroachment of news deserts, with local newspapers and TV stations falling before the internet revolution. What a tragedy that a capital city is now staring down the same grim reality. Of course, on a more positive note, at least Territorians can still boast the world's finest newspaper.
I didn't order a schlong black.
Granny gets boinked by flying dildo.
classic. Now, to the ABC's much-loved Yankee Digest.
Hello there and welcome back to Planet America for the start of a new year and a new political era.
Planet America has long brought some much-needed light relief to the ABC News menu, dissecting American politics and culture with irreverence and wit, and presented by ABC journalist John Barron and funny man Chaz Licciardello.
We're going to call this the show in Ohio, the cluster in Cleveland, John. Done.
Barron and Licciardello have proven such a hit. In 2020, they began a second weekly program called Planet America Fireside Chat. But it seems even that is not enough for Chaz.
Let's get peppy. Welcome to Pep 183. That's Pep or Planet Extra podcast.
Yes, he has a podcast too. Pep is published every week on Spotify and Apple and on YouTube and is hosted by Chaz, but not John Barron. In his place is Dr. David Smith from the United States Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. But is Pep an ABC program? Answer, no. It's Chaz's own side hustle.
This is the unofficial podcast that is not in any way attached to Planet America.
5 years ago, when his podcast was first getting underway, it appears Chaz Licciardello was instructed to make that clear.
This is PEP, which does not stand for Planet Extra Podcast, because we've been made to not call ourselves that by the ABC. Long story.
Now, that's a story we'd like to hear, Chaz, because over on Facebook, the PEP podcast has been published on the official Planet America page, which of course is owned and administered by the ABC. And as the years have rolled by, Chaz's original disclaimer has been replaced with a cross-promotion.
It's an offshoot of Planet America on ABC Australia.
He's even given it a plug on ABC TV.
And there's a PEP podcast right there, brand new.
If you look closely, the podcast has been recorded and filmed in the ABC's radio studios and sometimes on the Planet America set itself. But Chaz Licciardello hasn't just been using the ABC to produce and promote his own podcast because, get this, he's been flogging merchandise as well.
So we finally did it, guys. We finally have a merch store operating.
Woohoo!
Yes, that's right. T-shirts for $35, hoodies for $50 and a cap for $30, all advertised via the ABC's Facebook page, where there's even been a useful link to the shop. If it hadn't ever occurred to Chaz that any of this crossed a line, he got a pretty good hint from one of his regular guests, journalist Richard Cook.
You can't sell these, right, because it's the ABC, which means that this is like priceless.
Oh no, we can sell them.
Oh really?
No, we don't think you can, Chaz. In fact, we believe that in pumping up your podcast on national TV and pushing merch on an ABC Facebook page, you've been in violation of a swathe of rules, not least that editorial decisions are not improperly influenced by personal interests, and of course the ABC's strict prohibition on advertising. After we put questions to the ABC, Chaz's plugs for PEP merchandise were scrubbed from the ABC's Planet America Facebook page, and we noticed there have been no promos for the podcast since then either, with a spokesperson telling us,
Media Watch has identified the increasing ambiguity over time between what is ABC and non-ABC content in relation to the podcast and Facebook page. This and the use of ABC resources needs to be better clarified and will be resolved through discussions between the ABC and Chaz.
Incredibly, the ABC said it had approved the use of its studios, hoping it would help promote Planet America, before Chaz moved off-site for his first episode of 2025. Chaz declined to comment to us, but he did come clean on his podcast over the weekend.
I got a call this week, a little phone call. I like phone calls. This phone call I didn't like. It was from Media Watch. It was from Linton Besser, actually.
As a result, he said there was going to be a few more changes ahead.
In the next week or two, the ABC is finally going to decide if this podcast is going to be part of the ABC or is it going to be commercial. The reason I'm grateful is because I like that Media Watch is turning the microscope onto this kind of thing.
you're welcome, I suppose. Although it does seem that along the way, you've had some misgivings of your own.
One of the designs that we have does say Dr. Dave, Chaz, 2024.
Should I wear my own on Planet America?
Yeah.
No, I shouldn't wear my own merchandise. That's pretty poor on many levels.
Which is right on point, Chaz. It's all a little bit shabby, isn't it? And frankly, we don't know how the ABC let you get away with it for so long. And that's all from us tonight. Be sure to check us out on iView and social media. You can find full statements on our website. And don't forget to send us your tips. Cheers. We'll see you next week. What'd you put in this?